In a world where appearances often define worth, what happens when a man chooses to hide his? This is the story of a superstar who had everything: fame, fortune, and love, only to lose it all in one devastating moment of betrayal. Heartbroken and disillusioned, he vanished, leaving behind the glittering world that once adored him. Disguised behind an ugly mask, he stepped into a life of anonymity, seeking a love untainted by wealth or beauty. But the journey to find something real was fraught with rejection, heartbreak, and a truth he never saw coming. What does it mean to love beyond appearances? And can the heart find its true home when everything else has been stripped away? Stay tuned for this extraordinary tale. Don't forget to subscribe to Savannah Storytime for more unforgettable stories. In the bustling heart of Arinze City, where neon lights mirrored the dreams of its inhabitants, Adisa Eze seemed to have it all. At just 22, his voice had become the anthem of a generation, and his stage name, D. Adisa, was whispered with admiration across the continent. His songs, raw and soul-stirring, painted the image of a man deeply in love, and for 2 years, that love had a name: Zelina. Zelina was more than his muse. She was his fiancée, the woman he had promised his future. Their wedding, a spectacle anticipated by fans and tabloids alike, was just weeks away. Adisa, blinded by love, had trusted her with everything: his secrets, his dreams, his heart. But that trust shattered one fateful evening. Adisa returned home earlier than expected from a recording session. His penthouse, perched above the glimmering streets of Arinze, was unusually silent. The faint sound of laughter lured him toward the bedroom. His heart raced, but it wasn't with joy. It was with an inexplicable dread. There they were. Kaney, his childhood friend and confidant, was locked in an embrace with Zelina, their laughter cruel and carefree. Adisa froze in the doorway, his presence unnoticed at first. When they finally saw him, there was no guilt, no apology. Instead, there was indifference. How long? Adisa's voice was barely a whisper, trembling with disbelief. Zelina straightened, her expression unyielding. "A year," she replied coldly. "And honestly, Adisa, I've been happier with him than I ever was with you." Kaney smirked, leaning casually against the bedpost. "Don't take it personally, man. You're good at writing love songs, not living them." The words struck harder than any blow. Adisa's world, once so vibrant, crumbled around him. Betrayal wasn't just a knife in his back. It was a wildfire consuming everything he had built. The scandal didn't end in that bedroom. By the next morning, social media was ablaze with the drama. Zelina and Kaney didn't just admit to their betrayal, they flaunted it. Photos, captions, and interviews painted them as the star-crossed lovers who had found each other despite the shadow of D. Adisa. Adisa retreated into silence. His fans clamored for a response, but he had none to give. The man who once ruled the charts felt small, invisible, lost. 1 week later, a cryptic message appeared on his social media accounts. "Sometimes to find yourself, you need to lose everything. I'll be gone." And with that, Adisa Eze disappeared from the world he once owned, leaving only echoes of his music and a void no one could fill. Far from the blinding lights and relentless noise of Arinze City, Adisa found refuge in the quiet solitude of Olumide Hills. The rolling landscape, dotted with small cottages and whispering trees, provided the escape he desperately needed. Here, the world seemed to forget him, and for once, he didn't mind. For weeks, Adisa lived in isolation, his days marked by silence and self-reflection. He couldn't bring himself to pick up a guitar or write a song. The wounds of betrayal were too fresh, too raw. He thought of Zelina and Kani often, but even more, he thought of himself. How had he been so blind? How had he let his life spiral into a public spectacle? One evening, a strange idea came to him. If he could step away from his identity, he could start over. He would abandon the persona of Adisa and become someone entirely unremarkable. Someone whose worth wasn't measured by fame or fortune. He began sketching out a plan, one as bold as his music once was. He would go back to school, not as Adisa Eze, the superstar, but as Okoro, an ordinary man. He would hide his face, his wealth, his name, and immerse himself in a world where no one knew him. Perhaps there, he could learn what it truly meant to love and be loved. Adisa reached out to a trusted contact in the film industry, commissioning a hyper-realistic silicone mask. When the package arrived weeks later, he marveled at the transformation it offered. The mask turned his handsome features into an ugly visage, scarred skin, uneven. With his new identity secured, Adisa enrolled in Adama University, a prestigious institution nestled in the bustling city of Mamba. He chose a degree program in business management, reasoning it would help him understand the world outside the music industry. He rented a modest room off campus and swapped designer clothes for second-hand outfits. The first day on campus felt surreal. Students hurried past him, unaware of the legend walking among them. For the first time in years, he wasn't followed by cameras or swarmed by fans. He was just another student, one among thousands. But beneath the mask, Adisa carried a new fear. Could he, a man who had spent his entire life in the spotlight, truly navigate a world where he was invisible? And could he find what he was looking for? A love untouched by fame, wealth, or beauty. After many weeks, the sprawling campus of Adama University was a world both unfamiliar and exhilarating for Okoro. He walked with his head low, his ugly face hidden behind oversized glasses, his second-hand clothes a stark contrast to the flashy outfits worn by some of his peers. Okoro kept to himself, observing quietly, until one girl caught his attention. Chisholm, a radiant beauty with a magnetic presence, seemed to glide through the campus. Her laughter turned heads, her confidence commanded admiration. Okoro couldn't help but be drawn to her, and after weeks of stolen glances and rehearsed lines, he finally mustered the courage to approach her. It was between classes, under the shade of a flamboyant tree, that he found her scrolling through her phone. With a deep breath, he walked up to her, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "Chisholm," he began, his words slow and deliberate. "I like you. I'd like to get to know you better." Her reaction was instant and brutal. Chisholm's eyes widened, not in surprise but in disbelief. She laughed, loud enough for the nearby students to hear. "You? You like me?" Her friends, lounging nearby, joined in her laughter. Okoro's face burned with shame, but she wasn't done. "You think you can approach me looking like that?" She gestured at him dismissively. "No car, no money, no looks. Are you serious? Please, go find someone in your league." "Wait!" a voice called out, cutting through the noise. Zara, a petite girl with tightly coiled hair and warm brown eyes, stepped forward. Zara was known on campus, but not for the reasons Chisholm was. She wasn't rich, didn't wear the latest trends, and often carried a second-hand bag with a notebook sticking out. Students whispered about her, calling her the odd one out, but she never seemed to care. Zara walked up to Chisholm, her voice firm. "He asked you out. He didn't commit a crime. You could have said no without insulting him." Chisholm rolled her eyes. "Mind your business, Zara. Nobody asked for your opinion." "But I'm giving it anyway," Zara shot back. She turned to Okoro, her expression softening. Don't let this get to you. You're better than this. Okoro nodded faintly, grateful but too embarrassed to speak. He shuffled away, but not before Zara caught up to him. Hey, she said, walking beside him. Don't let people like that define your worth. Chisholm thinks her beauty gives her power, but real power isn't in looks. Okoro stopped, finally meeting her gaze. Thank you, he murmured. I didn't think anyone would stand up for me. Zara smiled. Well, now you know someone will. From that day forward, Zara and Okoro became unlikely friends. She introduced him to the quiet corners of the library where she liked to study, and he shared stories of his life before university, carefully leaving out anything that might hint at his true identity. Zara's practicality and warmth amazed him, and for the first time in years, Okoro felt genuinely seen. Though he hadn't found love, he had found something just as precious, a true friend. Weeks turned into months, and Okoro settled into life at Adama University. But deep down, Okoro was still curious. Could wealth, even hidden behind his ugly mask, change how people treated him? Could it prove what he had always suspected, that for most people, money outweighed everything else? The opportunity to test his theory came when a student club announced a campus night party, a glamorous event held at a popular venue in the heart of Mamba. Okoro decided it was time to shift gears and see how the ugly boy would fare with a sudden air of affluence. On the evening of the party, Okoro arrived in a sleek black car, the engine humming softly as it pulled up to the venue. He stepped out dressed in a crisp suit, polished shoes, and an expensive watch that glinted under the venue lights. The crowd outside paused, turning to look at the figure who seemed entirely out of place yet so captivating. Whispers rippled through the gathering students. Isn't that the weird guy, Okoro? Since when did he have money? Is that even real? Inside, the reactions were even more dramatic. As he entered, conversations halted and heads turned. The ugly boy, they mocked, was now a picture of wealth and mystery, and it left everyone questioning everything they thought they knew. Okoro moved confidently through the crowd, though his heart raced beneath the calm exterior. He smiled politely, but spoke little, letting the stunned faces around him do the talking. He knew this moment was a game changer, even if it was temporary. The next day, the campus buzzed with rumors. Zara found out through classmates who described the night in vivid detail. Did you hear? Okoro showed up at the party, dripping in money, one exclaimed. Zara, caught between confusion and concern, sought Okoro out immediately. When she found him, Zara didn't hesitate. What's going on, Okoro? Everyone's talking about you. Okoro hesitated, then offered a rehearsed explanation. I won a lottery, a big one. I didn't mean to cause a scene. I just wanted to enjoy myself for once. Zara sighed, her expression softening. Lottery or not, you need to be smart about this. People will come for you now, and if you don't manage it well, you'll lose everything. Her words struck a chord with Okoro. She wasn't impressed by the money or the attention. It didn't change how she treated him. Zara's focus was on helping him succeed, even if it meant calling him out. Okay, Okoro said, a smile creeping onto his face. Teach me, what should I do? Zara lit up, her passion for financial planning taking over. For starters, invest. Don't just spend it. Use the money to build something sustainable. If you're serious, I can help you figure it out. With Zara's guidance, he used his wealth to open a small boutique near campus, hiring students to manage it. He put Zara in charge, impressed by her discipline and knowledge. For Okoro, the boutique wasn't just a business, it was a window into Zara's world. Her attention to detail, her ability to manage finances, and her unwavering kindness made him appreciate her even more. It wasn't long before Okoro's confidence returned, bolstered by the boutique's success and his growing popularity. And then, one day, he met someone new, Ngozi, a striking, confident student who carried herself with effortless grace. For Okoro, it was instant infatuation. He began pursuing Ngozi, much to Zara's quiet dismay. Ngozi surprised everyone by agreeing to date him, and Okoro, still blinded by his experiment with wealth and relationships, believed he had finally cracked the code. Money could overcome even the most unattractive appearance. Okoro's relationship with Ngozi quickly became the talk of Adama University. She was beautiful, stylish, and admired by many. Despite his ugly mask, Okoro's newfound wealth and confidence seemed to make him immune to the criticisms that once haunted him. Everywhere they went, whispers followed them. How did he get her? She must see something we don't. Or maybe it's just his money. Okoro ignored the chatter, convinced that this time he had found something real. Zara, meanwhile, remained his steadfast friend, though already developing feelings for Okoro. But she wanted him to be happy, even if it meant staying silent about her own feelings. One evening, Okoro arrived unannounced at Ngozi's apartment, hoping to surprise her with a gift. As he walked up to the door, he heard laughter coming from inside. His curiosity turned to unease when he recognized Ngozi's voice, joined by another, a man's. Quietly he leaned closer, straining to hear the conversation. Ugh, I can't stand looking at him, Ngozi said, her tone laced with disdain. He's so ugly, but the money makes it worth it. The man chuckled. And he really believes you're into him? Ngozi laughed. Of course, he's an easy target. Once we've gotten enough out of him, I'll end it. You know you're the only one I care about. The words hit Okoro like a blow. His hands trembled, his vision blurred, but he forced himself to stay composed. Quietly, he backed away, leaving the gift on the doorstep before walking into the night, his heart shattered once again. The following day, Okoro ended the relationship without explanation. Ngozi, unfazed, shrugged it off and moved on, but the damage to Okoro was profound. He realized that his wealth had only made him a target, not someone to be genuinely loved. Zara, noticing the shift in his demeanor, tried to comfort him. What happened? She asked gently as they sat under a tree on campus. Okoro shook his head. Nothing worth talking about. You can't keep shutting people out, Zara said. I know you don't like to show it, but you're human. It's okay to feel hurt. Her words touched him, but Okoro couldn't bring himself to share the full truth. Instead, he offered her a faint smile. Thanks, Zara. I don't know what I'd do without you. Zara smiled back, though her heart ached. She wished she could be more to him, but she knew better than to push. As the semester wore on, Okoro withdrew further. He found himself questioning everything: his wealth, his mask, his purpose. By the end of the year, he made a decision. He would leave Adama University and disappear once more. For Zara, life was about staying focused on her goals. Though her friendship with Okoro had become more distant, she carried on, grateful for the boutique they had built together and the opportunities it gave her. But everything changed one fateful evening. Zara had stayed late on campus, working on a group project. As she walked home under the dim streetlights of Mamba, a speeding car swerved recklessly, hitting her before disappearing into the night. The impact was brutal, leaving Zara unconscious as onlookers rushed to help. She was taken to Unity General Hospital, where doctors quickly realized the severity of her injuries. She required surgery, and the cost was a staggering 10 million naira. The news of Zara's accident spread quickly through the university, reaching Okoro, who had already left the city. His heart sank as he read the details in a group chat. Zara, the one person who had stood by him through everything, was now fighting for her life, and she had no family to turn to. The boutique's earnings were quickly drained to cover her initial treatments, but the surgery bill remained unpaid. Friends and classmates rallied to raise funds, but the amount was far beyond their reach. For Zara, time was running out. Okoro wrestled with himself and made his decision. He called his manager, someone he hadn't spoken to since his retreat from the public eye. "I need you to send money to this account," he said, his voice steady. "Make it clear it's from Adisa." His manager hesitated. "You sure about this? It'll spark questions about your disappearance." "I don't care," Okoro replied firmly. "Just make it happen." The next morning, the hospital received the full payment. The staff informed Zara, who was groggy but conscious, that her surgery had been scheduled. Overwhelmed with relief, she asked who had paid. "A donation," they told her, "from Adisa." Zara's heart raced. Adisa, the superstar she had admired for years? She couldn't believe it. Why would someone so famous care about her? She asked to send a thank you message, but the contact details were vague. Instead, she recorded a voice note, her words filled with gratitude and emotion. "Thank you, Adisa. I don't know why you chose to help me, but you've saved my life. If you ever hear this, I want you to know I'm forever grateful. And I wish I could meet you someday, just to tell you in person." As she finished, tears streamed down her face. She had no way of knowing that the person she was thanking wasn't a distant celebrity, but the friend who had been by her side all along. Okoro listened to the voice note in silence, his chest tightening. Zara's gratitude was genuine, but her words carried something more, a depth of emotion he hadn't expected. For the first time, he wondered if he had been blind to what had been right in front of him all along. The real girl for him, Zara. The campus of Adama University was alive with celebration. Graduation day had arrived, and students dressed in their best attire gathered with friends and family to mark the end of a chapter. The courtyard was filled with laughter, music, and the buzz of cameras capturing the moment. For Zara, the day felt bittersweet. Her recovery from the accident had been nothing short of miraculous, thanks to the mysterious donation from Adisa. But she couldn't shake the lingering sadness that Okoro, her closest friend, had disappeared without a word. Despite her gratitude for the surgery, she felt a void in her life that even this momentous occasion couldn't fill. As the ceremonies concluded, students began exchanging gifts and proposals, the air thick with excitement. Zara stood quietly at the edge of the courtyard, watching her classmates laugh and cheer. She clutched a small notebook in her hands, a gift she had intended to give Okoro before he vanished. It was filled with advice and words of encouragement, things she had never gotten to say. The commotion around her suddenly stilled, and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Zara looked up to see Okoro, standing at the courtyard's edge, holding a bouquet of bright yellow roses. He was still wearing his ugly mask, but there was something different about his presence, a vulnerability that silenced the laughter and whispers. Zara's heart skipped a beat as Okoro walked toward her. The crowd parted, their eyes locked on the man who had been both an enigma and a source of gossip for years. When he reached her, Okoro handed her the bouquet with trembling hands. "Zara," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion. I left because I was afraid. Afraid of what I felt, afraid of my failures, and afraid of you realizing who I really am. But in my time away, I've come to understand something. I've been blind to the truth, blind to you. Zara's eyes welled with tears as she looked at him, her voice trembling. You left when I needed you the most, Okoro. Why? Why did you disappear? Okoro took a deep breath and reached for the edges of his mask. Slowly, he peeled it away, revealing his true face. The crowd gasped as the striking features of Adisa, the superstar, emerged beneath the mask. Phones flashed, and shocked murmurs filled the courtyard. I didn't think I was worthy of your love, he confessed, his eyes locked on Zara's. I thought I needed to prove myself to you, to be better than I was. But I see now that I was wrong. You're the one who taught me what love really is. Not wealth, not appearances, but loyalty and kindness. You've always been there for me, even when I couldn't see it. Zara's breath hitched, the weight of his words crashing over her. Around them, the crowd buzzed with disbelief, but in this moment, it was as though only the two of them existed. Tears streamed down Zara's face, a mix of anger, relief, and overwhelming emotion. You could have told me, Okoro. You could have trusted me. Instead, you left me alone. Okoro knelt before her, his voice breaking. You're right. I failed you when you needed me the most, and I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you'll let me. All I'm asking is for a chance, to show you that I'm not the man who left. I'm the man who's here now, ready to be by your side. As the crowd cheered, Okoro stood, taking Zara's hand in his. Together, they walked out of the courtyard, leaving behind the whispers and speculation. For Zara, it was the beginning of a new chapter. For Okoro, it was a second chance, one he would cherish for the rest of his life. Months had passed since that unforgettable graduation day at Adama University, and life had taken a new direction for both Okoro and Zara. Okoro, now unmasked and back in his identity as Adisa, returned to the public eye with a fresh perspective. His comeback wasn't just about music, it was about purpose. His first song after his hiatus, The One I Almost Missed, became an instant hit, a heartfelt ballad inspired by Zara. Fans, old and new, embraced the vulnerable side of the superstar they once knew. But Okoro didn't stop there. With Zara's guidance, he expanded their boutique into a national chain, creating opportunities for young entrepreneurs and students. One evening, under the warm glow of the setting sun, Okoro and Zara stood on a balcony overlooking the bustling streets of Mamba. Okoro turned to her, holding her hands. I've been thinking, he said with a smile. We've built so much together, our business, our lives, but I think it's time to take the next step. Zara raised an eyebrow, her lips curving into a teasing smile. And what step is that? Okoro knelt down, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple yet elegant ring. Zara Onwubiko, you've always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. You've taught me what love truly means, and I don't want to spend another day without you by my side. Will you marry me? Tears filled Zara's eyes as she nodded. Yes, Okoro. 1,000 times, yes. Their story became a modern-day legend in Adama University and across Arinze City, a tale of love that transcended appearances, wealth, and fame. For Okoro and Zara, it wasn't about the opinions of others, but about the life they had built together, grounded in trust, perseverance, and the kind of love that could overcome any obstacle. And as they walked hand in hand into their future, they knew they had found what they had been searching for all along, a love that was real. If you love this story, subscribe to Savannah Storytime and stay tuned for more stories that portray the right way to live.